Hey, tarot friends, this is Ultraviolet Morgan, and I just wanted to talk about a different way to work with a tarot card, or to study your tarot cards, basically. So, this is a way to study, for example, the Hermit card. So, first of all, of course, you look at the Hermit card, you look at the imagery, you think about what the imagery means, how it makes you feel, any stories that it brings up, any meanings that you know. If you want, you can look in the book and see, what the book has to say about it. It's not at all about memorizing. It's just about thinking about the card, thinking about, what the card could mean, or in other words, different the way that it interprets for you, or what the card is saying to you. So I like to say cards don't have meanings, they have possible interpretations. And I also like to say, I don't think about what does this card mean so much as what does this card want to say to me? What does this card talk about? The Hermit talks about going inside. The Hermit talks about removing oneself from outside stimulation. So it could talk about isolation. It also could talk about higher education. I think of it in terms of like an old, professor, an academic, someone who is just alone in their tower with their books and their learning. Or it could be someone who's alone with just their thoughts, like a monk, or someone who's renounced, things of the world. It could, renounced maybe sensual pleasures. Doesn't necessarily have to be. Hermit can also be, I drew a hermit card that was someone taking a bath. It was about self-care. It was about focusing on yourself. The hermit can be about, I just had something in my head that I really liked, and then it kind of jumped out. Inner knowledge, sharing now. Shh, I can't. I'm talking, honey. Sharing knowledge, enlightening things, study, self-care. I said that, so all these various things that the hermit can be about, that the hermit can speak about. Think about what books you've read, movies you've seen, or whatever, where there's a character that's a hermit. What do those associations bring up? Obi-Wan Kenobi, the old hermit that lived by himself. He knew a lot. He'd seen a lot. He knew a lot more than, he chose who to share that information with. People mostly thought he was crazy, He kept to himself. So all these kind of associations or thoughts about it, just look at it, think about it. But then the second step is, while you're still studying the hermit card, it's just really simple, but study it in relation to, like, going through different cards, right? So in relation to the Six of Cups, which now these cards seem really opposite, because here, this is a card we're talking about sharing. We're talking about this kind of happy feeling with another person, happy memories. Six is love and connection, whereas the Hermit is, isolation, internal. But we could say, all right, so this combination is talking about thinking, you're spending time alone, thinking about your past connections and how they have had an effect on you, how they have influenced your life so far. For example, reflecting on happy memories, happy times. You could think about it in terms of Abraham Hicks talks about, the vortex, and talks about basically, needing to be in this positive state. So just thinking about pleasure and happy thoughts that help to get you into that, vibration of happiness. And it could be about getting to know yourself. It could be about connecting with your inner child. It could be about doing some work with ancestors, because this also represents the past. So those are some ways that you can look at these cards together. And then, just flip through. So this one, to me, this one feels like, with this Eight of Wands, this feels like spending some time to think about your goals, your plans for the upcoming, time ahead. Where do you want to be? What do you want to accomplish on the next cycle turn? So that's what that feels like to me. What things do you feel inspired to move towards? What new ideas do you want to put into motion? That kind of thing, right? So here's the Nine of Discs. So with these two together, I would be thinking about being self-sufficient. Also, again, self-care. Really focusing on loving and caring for yourself, beautifying yourself. Because I feel like this, especially this one, really kind of is about resplendence and beauty and opulence, maybe to some extent. So, as an example, different things for different people. And with this, I would say, here now we're talking about the Hermit, possibly doing some healing, retreating to do some healing work, or maybe retreating to get some downloads, some spiritual, mental downloads that could be painful, but that will be life-changing. That will, be knowing that they're going to be big enough things that they're going to be discomfort. They're going to cause discomfort. They're going to require shifting of things, and, but they're important, just learning that things and receiving messages that are going to make a real shifts, right? And it's gonna be difficult. Knowledge sometimes does bring pain, and sometimes brings a release. Sometimes you learn and change, and you have to let go of things that you don't want to let go of in order to move into the next, thing or whatever. So, like, for example, if you're in a relationship and you learn some things that, this is often shown to be heartbreak, right? So you learn some things about your partner or about the connection that they hurt a lot, and you make the decision that you need to learn from this, and you need to choose yourself and move on from that situation. That involves letting go of something that you don't necessarily want to let go of in order to grow. So there can be pain in growth. Also, I also think of the three a lot of times in terms of childbirth, as because of it being a three, and while you're creating life, you're bringing life into the world. You've got that three, but it's painful, So this can be a really profound card. It isn't just about being hurt by a lover or something. It's not, that is a big deal, but it's not just about that. It can be really profound in other areas. Six of Swords. I like this one because she's actually escaping. She's escaping. So this could be really about withdrawing in order to escape from something, or it could be withdrawing to reflect on ways that you're keeping yourself stuck. I'm not going to do every single one of these that I turn over, but Princess of Wands, just different ways that you can look at it. This is interesting. This is Six of Swords, and this is Eight of Swords. These are very similar. Literally, I actually thought that was Eight of Swords, even though it said six, just from the imagery. I love her because she looks like, to me, it just makes me think of a witch. A little bit of like burning at the stake, but like, I feel like she's walking right through the flames, really. Like they tried to burn her, but she's just walking through the flames. Nothing to do with this exercise. That's just how I felt about this card. So there's Six of Discs. And not every combination is necessarily going to be getting alone to think about. There may be other ways to look at them. But that's just kind of one that's sort of entering for me. Ace of Discs. Like, how can you bring more abundance into your life? But, I mean, with the Hermit, for me, yeah, it does seem to be mainly saying, what is it that you should be sort of focusing your mind and your spiritual energies on? Justice. Five of Cups. Or maybe you need to get alone. Maybe you actually need to feel all your grief and work instead of repressing it. Maybe you gotta work through it. Maybe you need to go alone and do some primal scream therapy and cry and throw things. It happens. Maybe you need to take a vacation, a solo vacation. I'll just let you can kind of look at these and think if anything comes immediately to your mind. I'll give them. I like this because there's this eye that's peeking through the sky. This one would make me think maybe of kind of being alone to dedicate yourself, sort of spiritually, to something. Like a baptism in a way, like a self-initiation or ritual, or even like sort of a spiritual journey. What are those? Like a vision quest, kind of? Not to appropriate, but to use a familiar term that people know about. Prince of Cups. Kind of an obvious combination. So in each case, the point is that you are illuminating this card with this card. You're not studying this card separately. You're not illuminating this card with this card. But it's all, okay, how do I take whatever concept that I was feeling here and apply it to other cards? Because I think it feels like a lot of times it's overlooked, the idea of reading cards in combination. The Tower. This could be about repairing after, major life changes or major difficult situations. It could be about rebuilding, but it could also be about getting away and just tearing things apart, deconstructing yourself. Heavy work that needs to be done alone. This also could be about seeking out a teacher. It isn't necessarily about being alone. It could be seeking out a teacher to help you with any of these types of concepts. The Fool. Where do you need to begin again? Or, where do you need to start Where do you need to just take that first step that towards something that you've kind of been waiting until you could be perfect in order to do it? Where do you need to just look at, be the trusting fool and just take that first step, without knowing necessarily everything about it? Be willing to learn as you go. 10 of Wands. This card is just so freaking cool. Strength. Wheel of Fortune. Maybe you're going away to, maybe you're not going away. Maybe you're not physically going away at all. Maybe you're just going to take a year to study the phases of the moon, right? Maybe you're just going to do that. Or maybe you're going to take like a year's time to study the seasons or anything, to kind of specifically pay attention to some important aspect that's cyclical throughout that year, or just embark upon a course of study. I don't know why, but this is talking about a year right now for me. It is showing the zodiac wheel, So, in terms of this being about studying, maybe this for you is saying something about beginning a year-long course in something, And I feel like personalizing it, like getting a year to get intimate with the moon or whatever. Not like just take, a class in astrology, which is fine too, as part of that, but I don't know, it just feels like that to me. And again, everything that everyone does this is going to be different for them. Your interpretations will be different. Maybe you need to work through some past trauma bonds or past relationships that were damaging or that were unhealthy. Maybe, something like that. Maybe you need to get in touch with your own sense of authority. Oh, that's just pretty. And that's the thing too, like you can flip through your cards and like not everyone will have to speak to you as a message. Like, you can just kind of look and be like, oh, that's just really pretty. That I've got nothing. Okay. So this is, I think, is going to be the last one because I might go through some more, but this combination for me, I was kind of looking through these and that's what made me decide to do this video, but this combination for me felt so, so powerful. I was just like, wow, this is like a combination that's talking about really going inside of yourself, stripping away the layers, deep, deep introspection, peeling back the layers, maybe working with Persephone, sort of psychopomp type of work, thinking about like death doulas or people at the end of their lives, like sort of how they prepare for their transition when they realize, like I have an aunt who's 91 years old this year, and she's like very aware she's not going to be around forever, and she's starting to, think about where her belongings are going to end up, and what she wants to make sure that is passed on, what stories she wants told, what lessons